0-2 against them in the regular split, so that's even gonna make it more interesting for both us and them. I think I played really bad the 2 games we lost against them, so I'm looking forward to redeem myself.
And there's a player that definitely redeemed himself in Game 1 of this best of 5. Welcome back to European Regional Qualifier, where Origin is 1-0 up in today's semi-final. Before we get to Game 2, the 5 new project skins that are currently on the PBE will go live in client on September the 8th. In addition to the unique particles, the animations, they also come with the potential to summon those special project minions when you sync up the skins with your team. You guys can find out more details over at leagueoflegends.com. And there are those mechanized, weaponized, Bionica-sized minions in-game. Right, focusing back in the match at hand, where the teams, they have switched sides, and they will continue to do so throughout the series. Ari was picked up by Nukeduck in Game 1. I remember Yamato in the semi-finals being very outspoken about it being a bad pick. I think the context is different in this series because of how heavily pinched mid-lane champion pool was. What do you think is going to happen now that they're blue side?
I mean, he made some bold comments. Perhaps he was playing that analytical game saying, Ari, oh, that champion, yeah, not very good. First pick. Yeah. But yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out. Obviously, they did get some advantages from pressuring that champion pool. More so because Origin as a whole decided to not pick any wave clear. I think it could have been solved if just Xpeke got some support from any wave clear champion, say a Corki on Niels. Obviously, once in the late game, it looks pretty because he was tearing through the enemy team. The peel from Mitty on Braum, obviously, was the main factor for me to get through that early game. And that's what the Fischer said on the analyst desk too. And I want to echo that statement. You may want to ban Braum if you are Rocket.
Let's see if Rocket agree. Adapting their pick and ban strategy, Varus as a champion Peke has played, which would have solved the wave clear problem they had from Game 1, and they're taking it off the table.
Yeah, analyst desk obviously brought that up too, and they said, well, yes, you get wave clear, but you just die. You get the Pepinero treatment. 3 people, one from the right, one from the left, all unite on mid lane, dead Varus. So that's definitely something Origin will still have to keep in mind for this game. That is the approach that that Rocket took yesterday, and it led them to a pretty swift sweep in the series. So definitely want to keep an eye on that.
And again, a ban on Azir from Origin. This is going to be a problem for Peke if his pool can get tested further. Fizz is off. Yasuo is the last one that was unavailable from the side of Origin. And of course, Gangplank, which was first picked.
Yeah, Gangplank is left open. Good point there. And obviously, Steve's going to immediately pick it up. And that's what we expected coming into this series, just a top priority on that Gangplank. Now, has Soaz developed, found a counter to this pick? Because obviously, when you master Gangplank, you always knows what is good against you. To see if Origin can solve that. For now, they're probably going to hide as much information as they can. They're hovering a Shen pick. Shen is a flex, so you can leave it up until the 5th rotation to hide potential 2 picks. Since Azir is out, the counterpart in, say, Azir Victor double tier 1 mid laners picked up by Origin. Fizz is out too, so this is very comfortable position for Xpeke to be in.
Well, 2 times that Origin faced Gangplank in the finals. Soaz ran Olaf the first time with Sivir, and he ran Fizz the next time. Did manage to pick up a victory with Fizz, and Fizz is in fact banned away. Sivir is still available as far as picks and bans are concerned. Quite low down in terms of priority for both of these teams.
I like what Rocket did on their 2nd rotation though. The Gragas early pickup with at least out of the picture gets you a really good jungler in the early game that scales well into the late game. We always talk about how Gragas is one of the best scaling junglers towards the late game scenarios, offers everything you need, tankiness, engage, and disengage. And then you steal away the Braum from Mitty, you say, well, you play that well, show us what else you can do on a different champion. And just the composition as a whole, these are 3 bricks that build the perfect foundation for pretty much any composition for Rocket. They can go any direction. If they want to go siege, if they want to go late game, if they want to go split push, they have all the tools they need to finish this composition while not revealing all too much. All they reveal is, well, we have 3 strong picks. Give us your answer, Origin.
And they deny it from their opponents as well. That Braum away from Mithy, as you mentioned. That means Mithy will be running the Alistar. Technically, Shen was still a flex for Origin. Mithy has run the Shen in the past, which means it's going to be in Soaz's hands this time. And it is the AD carry that is left for Origin, with no real priority on what they're looking for. Expect that to be a Sivir if it's available, maybe Tristana. If
or could easily be a Vayne again as well, because Vayne now has a defensive peel she needs. She has a Shen ulti to survive possible ganks and roams. She gets taunts in front of her. She has an Alistar peeling for her. If she draws aggro, then Victor will do a whole lot of damage in these fights. Obviously, Vander's attention is going to go towards blocking those lasers from Victor because he's very reliant on that damage in the fight, and if Braum can soak up some damage, or if Yasuo can put a wind wall, then obviously Rocket can deny and just prevent a lot of damage coming out from Origin. This may change their champion pick here for Origin. Maybe they just want something else. They want to rotate early in the game, because if they go for a 5v5 team fight, getting around this double wind wall, or one wind wall, one unbreakable from Braum, will prove pretty tricky in these fights.
So, as we mentioned, Yasuo, a champion, was banned in game 1. Yasuo is a champion that allowed Rocket to beat Origin in week 9 of the LCS. It was the last time these teams met. And it is another good counter. It's something that has been targeted towards Nukeduck often. He's got a lot of enablers from his team composition. So for Origin, they have to outplay Nukeduck's assassin and vice versa. If Rocket want to win, could be on Nukeduck's back.
Just looking at Rocket's composition as a whole, I'm a fan. You have one side lane pusher in Gangplank that can also do well in teamfights if he's provided some time to set up the barrels. You have a mid laner that can transition later into another split pusher, facilitating a potential 1-3-1. What do you need for that? Well, you need an 80 carry wave clear. Corki offers good enough amounts of wave clear, in addition if a Braum joins to deny some of the siege from your enemies, so you have a well-rounded composition. What is your goal in teamfights? Well, it is getting knockups on the Yasuo to proc that ultimate. Who can do that? Gragas with body slam and ulti, Braum with ulti too. So you have knockup facilitators, you have good teamfight, you have good 1-3-1, you have decent early game, and you still don't really suck in the late game. So well-rounded composition, well, because you have Gangplank, you know.
But their opponents, Origin, have got a slightly improved game plan this time around. Good mixture of damage, good front line. It feels like they have similar powers, but maybe slightly less spiking in damage. Gangplank's going to burst you more, Yasuo's going to burst you more. But there's shields and there's protection from Echo, from Shen, from Alistair that could play out in their favor.
I think Origin, they run the risk of getting outscaled with this composition, especially later in the fights if it gets to a point where Rocket can focus the front line and just put up a wind wall and then have Unbreakable deny damage from Origin's backline. Then Origin might have a problem. However, they've shown to be a fantastic shot calling team, and they will recognize this. The same way they recognized last game. What do we do from behind? Well, we get the right wards at the right time, at the right place, and we come back into the game.
Game 1 of this series, Rocket were unable to press their mid-game advantage deep enough. The pressure is now on Origin to say, we can do it better. They have the Sivir, they have the Victor, and they have that split-pushing tool, and so as a Shen. But Ninjas versus Pirates, who will come out on top in this bout? Are we even going to see standard lanes? Don't seem to be any...
One lone guy in the crowd shouts Ninjas, so we'll go with him. Shen will trump over Gangplank.
Thank you, dude in crowd.
Thank
High
you,
five.
yeah, dude. But yeah, the good thing about Shen as a pick, obviously, is that you have one of those extra globals. So you can argue whether Gangplank ulti is a true global or not, but it can assist in fights. So can Shen, and then you still can teleport back to your lane or teleport somewhere else, just like Gangplank can. So that kind of gets neutralized out. Early, I want to see how Nukeduck handles this mid lane, if he's going to get pushed in, or if he can deny Pekka some farm. It'll be interesting. It's all about dodging the lasers.
We'll see how good he is at dodging those lasers. The Victor, Pekka's only played it twice. So once again, champion pool being somewhat tested. 10, 6, and 10. Not the most impressive stat line from Pekka, but as a team, despite all the whispers of Pekka, the team's not built around him carrying. It is around amazing, facilitating the best lane. And we've seen Soaz carry, we've seen Niels carry, we've seen amazing carry.
If you look at that Grom setup, every time I see these barrels, we have the 2v2. Miffy face checking though in Braum passive. Oh, that's going to be rough.
Miffy, we just praised you at the end of the previous game. It's chunked out 50% on a face check, and the lanes have swapped. It's Australia lane.
Swapped, so Rocket predict a lane swap from Origin here. They read that beautifully. Find themselves in the top lane. They all start on the same side, but their bottom side is still available right for the taking, so don't get punished in the jungle at all. Teams play with enough information here. I think overall we see a pretty standard gameplay. However, Mithy gets pushed in early, soaks up some damage, but Alistar later on with some extra healing can obviously sustain through most of these lanes. He has opted to go Relic Shield over Coin. A lot of Alistar just like actually just playing Coin and just get more mana, which results in more healing.
Sounds simple enough.
Good zone though from Vander here, and Raw is really punishing that experience advantage they have. Mithy and Niels are still looking for that creep. That creep right there should give them a level 2 if they haven't been zoned off any experience, but they're already 50% on both. Good early start here from Rocket.
And it's important to note, if Rals and Vander can keep up that pressure, the 2v2 could dictate a long portion of this game. Niels eats a Winter's Bite and 200 hit points. We did see Mithy has scaled that Triumphant Roar, so he's going to slowly give Niels some HP back.
Yes, he's going to give HP back, but he loses the pressure. The big power spike used to be from Alistar level 2 that you can threaten Q flash into knockback into tower for lanes that are pushing on you, especially melee supports. If you skill heal seconds, obviously you delay that into level 3, at which point Rocket can just simply push in and bounce the wave and deny you in the lane. So Rocket have complete control of the top lane. They look to have complete control of the mid lane because Nukeduck is comfortably pushing in. He leaves himself always an escape minion that he can then dash through and escape the ganks. Jankos is going to find Amazing here. So that allows Steve to push out aggressively on the bottom lane. We have 3 pushing lanes for Rocket.
So a lot of options now for Jankos. With 3 pushing lanes, Jankos has to find the opportunity to get a lead. Whereas for Origin, if Rocket continue the pressure and do not have backup, Amazing could punish. Good barrel mechanics from Steve, chaining the triple hit and punishing Soaz. It's not resulting in a CS lead, but this is what we talked about from Steve. He showed a proficiency for those barrels yesterday.
All right, Amazing has to get a gank off. He was pressured and found in his jungle. We need to see if he can get creative and find a gank. If Steve dies here to a potential flank, that will be a big mistake. They spotted him in the jungle. This could be predictable. Well, he's setting up for a gank in the bot lane.
You don't have to get creative if Steve is overextended. Time Winder comes out, and Amazing's not going to get that parallel convergence to connect. So no flash, and Steve literally just walks away.
Yeah, 1v2 by Steve here, and a lot of time spent from Amazing because he had to path all the way to an empty jungle. Didn't pick any camps. Goes back to his Gromp right now. So you see, that was still alive. He took that down. Now he has the base. He hit level 4 just now. Jankos is level 4, but he's counter jungling Amazing right now, and that's the benefit from having field pushing lanes, because you can comfortably move in. This is why Rocket keep pushing in the lane top 2. Just add pressure on Niels, trying to get an experience and CS advantage.
I want to find out how well these teams can handle those lanes. For Origin, a little bit of pressure on Steve, but they're still on the defensive, and it looks like Jankos trying to find something, trying to find another opportunity, or in place for counter game.
Yeah, he's just basically what we call shadowing lanes. Term I first heard used by Frost Current, so I'm going to give the credit there. You just hover around the lanes. Instead of going for the ganks, you just put yourself in a position where you either can counter gank or punish overcommit. Mithy goes in here. Braum Shield should be able to block something if it gets used. Niels gets some extra mana, so good trade here for Origin.
Feels like a little bit more control to Niels and Mithy, as long as Mithy's going to keep that heal up. Amazing is in tow. He's arrived later than Jankos may have expected.
This is bad.
Let's find out if
the vision drops.
Is in trouble. The Pulverize and the Headbutt's going to push him backwards. Amazing's going to come in for that phase dive, but Vander's Unbreakable blocks a lot of damage.
That's one of the awkward moments when you pulverize somebody and you step outside of the brush to knock them backwards. Suddenly you realize, well, I need to see into the brush to knock him out. So Mithy panicked a little bit, didn't have a ward. That's why the knockup was slightly late. In the end, they do burn the flash on Vander. So if Amazing visits that lane later on, they can take him down, but Braum, very sturdy champion to take down, will be tricky.
Well, that CS lead that Mr. Rals had built up is now being pulled out. So Mr. Rals will be happy to pick up that Phage first item. Niels will be even happier. Some of that pressure's been relieved, and we've not touched on the Nukeduck versus Peke matchup all that frequently, but every time we look in here, Nukeduck is trying to shove Peke in and trying to get some harass and damage down.
However, the CS is bang on even. So if you can't capitalize on that pressure, which means you can help your jungler make a pick or you can get some tower damage, Nukeduck can push all he wants. He's never hitting this tower since he's a melee range champion. He's dancing beautifully at the edge of tower range, but overall the CS is even. Amazing is just going to pick up this wave, so Origin as a team are not losing any resources. Rocket, they will need to find an opening where Origin cave under the pressure. Otherwise, we might see a repeat from last game.
And we do have to give some props to Rocket scaling this time, because despite the fact Origin's comp has not necessarily become enabled, Rocket are ahead in gold, Rocket are pressuring Origin, Rocket are forcing Origin to reply.
Yep.
And if Steve can keep farming, if he can get to an item spike, if Nukeduck can also pick up some AD, there is options there for them. We did see Soaz just TP up top, so this could be trouble.
Big. Because as we see on the minimap, expect a roam to the bottom. Amazing joining him. They want to get rid of Steve on Gangplank. Soaz face checking for a ward, but he has to taunt out. He's going to relinquish complete control of that tower. Steve obviously still has his ultimate available to wave clear anywhere in the map where it's needed. So this might be the momentum for Rocket.
Well, we'll see if the towers can be equalized. The wave has been dropped by that cannon barrage. Niels has pulled the minion line into the jungle. Origin is saying, right, we'll go Dragon. That must mean they're going to lose the tower up top, and they do. So gold advantage and tower advantage to Rocket, and it looks like Steve has got into position to try to defend that outer.
Problem is, Steve reads this right. He knows that they're going to go low on Dragon, and if they return, he might actually be able to survive long enough or even get a kill on that dive. That means Rocket as a team can actually keep pushing top lane if they want. Look at how low Mithy and Amazing are going, but I don't think Rocket quite realize how much opportunity they have right for the taking here.
Origin going to grab their first Dragon well ahead of their season averages from the summer split. But we can see the control, and again, the lanes being pressured in, as well as the vision deep. So if Rocket want to play beyond the lanes and those first inner turrets, they've got the vision and the information to work with.
And they do. Jankos steals away the red buff. If you look at your minimap, his blue buff and his red buff are still available. So that's what Rocket is doing. This is how they're capitalizing on their advantage. They're stealing away camps. Camps are experiencing gold, and they're trying to get a lead that way that will later manifest in winning team fights.
It will be also important to find the right team fights. Game 1, Rocket had a similar situation. Game 1 had a similar lead, but were unable to find the fights or to play the map because to their comps effectively.
The difference right now is that their Rocket is comfortable in the late game, if not better than this Origin lineup. So the burden of the outplay, the burden of the pressure is on Origin, because they really need to make something happen, especially in the mid game. Because otherwise this double carry composition is going to fall flat, especially if you look at Amazing. It's not AP Echo, it's simply just simple standard tank Echo overall.
Going to run out of damage, which is a very, very real concern. Origin, though, they did get their first Dragon, so that will help out as we crest 10 minutes in the game clock. 14,000 gold to 13,000 gold, so Rocket doing relatively well for themselves. And Rolls, as well as Niels, has now swapped down to the bottom. So we're going to see the Pirates and Ninjas up top, and the bottom outer turret will be the next target here for Rolls and Vander.
Problem is, while Niels is dropping low here on HP, what Vander could do is walk up, deny the wave clear if he can block the boomerang on a later wave, and then have Steve teleport down. There's still about 30-40 seconds left on the teleport cooldown for SOAS. Obviously, he has Stand United available. It's not really going to do too much, but Rocket are looking to force a potential push here on the bot lane, because Niels is getting pressured.
Let's see if they can pull the trigger. Jankos is not moving towards the bottom. See if he does. Not a whole lot of camps up on the top half of the map, so going to be tracking his decision making as, again, we're just going to see this wave clear versus wave clear in the mid lane. Jankos actually secures the blue as opposed to donating that one over to Nukeduck.
Obviously, Yasuo doesn't really need mana. Yes, he likes cooldown reduction, but the added advantage that Jankos get, that he can sustain through the jungle a lot easier, just constantly keep casting all his abilities without having to worry about mana, leads to more pressure, leads to better vision control, and that in turn allows Nukeduck to play more aggressively. So then that blue buff kind of works in his favor still. Yeah. Overall, Rocket are pushing all three lanes still, and this is a worrisome fact. If you can get that to happen as a drafter, as a coach, get three pushing lanes with an aggressive jungle, you've done a great job. Obviously, your team still needs to execute it overall, and it doesn't necessarily mean that these lanes are always going to play out the way they did. I think level 1 played a large part in it, especially in terms of the 2v2 in the top lane. That early phase shake from Mithy cost all the snowball advantage for Origin in that top lane.
It really is coming back to hurt them. They're getting closer to Steve farming up those Silver Serpents, 250. I want to track exactly what he decides to upgrade once we get there, but finally going to let off the pressure in that top lane. We did see Rolls was able to shove out the bottom lane, but look, Pickaxe Avarice versus almost Trinity Force.
Yeah, just the key components of that Trinity Force for Corki. Sheen and Phage finished into the Pickaxe Avarice Blade, denied another wave under the tower. Yeah, this is the point where this matchup starts breaking. As a Sivir, you really want that BF early, so you can threaten the damage from a W auto Q combo to really chunk somebody to half HP. And now Corki's comfortably trading with those Sheen procs. And it keeps Mithy in lane too, because Niels needs help, because he will get 1v1. This removes Mithy's roaming potential, something he's very good at as a support player.
But the back timing from Rolls, in conjunction with the pressure on Steve much earlier in the game, results in that bottom outer turret being secured for Origin. We did touch on the items a moment ago. We did see Pekka. He's returned with an upgraded Hex Core on those Lucidity Boots, as well as the Shiv. But let's look up top. Junglers and top laners, it's the 2v2 battle we like to talk about. Defensive flash away from Soaz. Steve is going to get caught by that parallel convergent, but he eats an orange and it's okay. Stand United could get channeled. If Amazing wants to dive, they can. Soaz takes a turret shot. They've traded. The Ninja kills the Fat Man and the Pirate kills the Ninja. Gonna back away. Jungler for top lane in a 1-for-1 trade.
I do think Origin, no, Rocket must have gotten that first spot because 400 gold lead for Rocket, even though the gold was even. That was very, very close, and overall, looks like Steve will be happy with this because gold on Gangplank is exactly what you want.
Yeah, definitely the case. Soaz was able to secure that first blood, despite eating the turret shot, just overestimating the distance of that dash.
Yuptuk going in here for a knock-up.
Peke, if he gets knocked up, he'll be in trouble. But look how easy it is for Nuktuk to trade with that flow shield passive.
Yeah, he gets his shield up, then dashes in. Victor obviously is happy if his ulti can connect for multiple seconds, but it's going to be incredibly hard to keep that on. Such a very nimble champion on that Yasuo.
With a minion wave to keep sweeping blade through over and over. It was banned last game. I mean, Origin said, nope, do not want. Nuktuk played it and beat Origin in week 9. He played it in the tiebreaker against Giants and beat them then. He's definitely a champion he's competent with and comfortable with on this patch.
Origin did get an early dragon, and not only does that steal dragon away, it removes potential bait for Rocket on that dragon. They don't have to worry about 5 dragons later because that's what Rocket excels at. Baiting people into your area. When you have a Gangplank defending, you can just throw out a barrel or a Glacial Fissure to prompt any knockup. Yasuo goes in, places Wind Ball later. Baiting people is what Rocket wants to do to close out this game because sieging is relatively hard for them. Because the only champion that's going to do it is Corki, and there's a good amount of wave clear for Origin to defend, and that's why Rocket just take out this dragon to even up that score, because Origin are by no means interested in even stopping this dragon.
I think that's a big problem for Rocket. The inability to siege. Because as a team...
Well, they can, but it'll devolve into kind of a dive. They'll put up the wind balls, deny some of the lasers. It's not necessarily inability, it's just tricky. They much more prefer...
difficulty there.
Yeah, they much more prefer to just bait people into the area, and Origin have proven to be just a smart team that rarely buys into these baits.
I just feel that when it comes to something like that, Rocket excel more when they have a slightly more simple comp. But if they are going to able to find team fights and force Origin face check, that reduces a lot of the questions to hit skill shot. If yes, press R.
I mean, looking closer at these sieges, how they play out later in the game, it's just a tricky matchup because you have the threat from a Talon Flash, you have the threat from a Pulverize combination coming out where the Flash is involved. Here we see Raw is dashing on Soaz. He's tanky, he should be able to survive, but just keep your eyes on Vander in the minimap. Nope, can't circle around. Still a tower there. But as I was saying, the threat from a Talon Flash and a Pulverize is what Rocket is worried about. However, they can poke with Corki and a couple of these barrels to then chunk Origin enough to just say, okay, you really don't want to engage at this point. I'm going to yield the tower. That's the way they want to go about their sieges later. But that's a slow process, and Rocket have shown when things go slow, they leave openings for Origin to just capitalize on.
Origin are going to look for an opening up top. Crepo, as Steve is left alone under the turret. There goes ahead.
The party.
Pulverized. Parallel Convergence will stun Steve up in just a moment. No, he's going to run out. Eats an orange. Steve's trying to get away from 4. The Vorpal Blade connects. 150 hit points. A defensive flash. Amazing. Gets it with a Time Winder. But they had to invest everything and the kitchen sink. Towers under pressure from Rocket in the mid lane as the wave's going to hit top. Rocket making a tower out of this as well.
Yeah, look at the top lane. Everybody is just saying, jump off this ship. Everybody go to the base, defend. They leave Niels to finish up that tower, so that'll be 1 tower for 1. Delayed though, in addition for an extra tower for a kill. So overall, 2 towers to 1 and a kill. I think Rocket is overall happy with this play. Steve did a phenomenal job stalling out. He still has teleport available to make a play. So as Lost Stand United also has teleport available, but Rocket opening up the map. But can they capitalize beyond these initial couple towers? That's where they failed last game.
Well, that is the eternal question. If Rocket want to go to Worlds, the answer will have to be yes. The man that wants to answer yes with the best hair in the LCS is Nukeduck. He's looking for Niels. He's found Soaz. Charging up the Steel Tempest. Needs another one. Has the Whirlwind. Is going to connect, but he's only going to catch Soaz. Flash away from Niels. Soaz does not have flash available. He will be going down, and it's Nukeduck that gets the kill.
Some fancy footwork from Nukeduck. However, the complete opposite happens here for Origin as they take on the siege in the mid lane tower. Everything used for Rocket to make a single pick, and they lose a tower. So deja vu, but on the wrong side of things. Origin have to back out before they finished off, but they chunk it, and it's pretty much dead anyways.
Tower one hit away from being secured. There's one kill now for Nukeduck. I was watching the itemization after that. He did buy a second pair of Mercury Treads and then sold them and picked himself up a phage. But I saw that, Nukeduck. I saw that.
Tenacious.
That definitely seems to be the case as we see the Cannon Minion doing battle with Vanda. And for Rocket, they maintain a lead in this game. They maintain control with a team comp that's going to scale with damage. And something I wanted to mention earlier, the Wind Wall and the Unbreakable Wall already have exceptional value in almost every comp. But when there's only 2 damage threats
Yeah, it becomes a
that
lot
rely
easier.
on Death Ray and Boomerang for a lot of their range poke, the value gets even higher. So for Nukeduck and for Vanda, they definitely have the tools to deal with the limited damage potential from Origin.
If they get ahead, Origin can also just keep walking back, get these cooldowns down, and then turn the fight. That will be their approach still. Or at least have to be conscious of this double wall setup. That's why I like Braum Yasuo as a combination. Not only does the Braum ulti set up beautiful knockups, you just have 2 wind walls pretty much built into your composition. One that you can move, one static one. So very, very just fun composition to play. It leaves a lot of room for outplays.
Find out whether or not Rocket can do them. Aegis of the Legion picked up for Yankos against the mixed magic damage from Victor, Echo, Soaz, Shen rather. And we see that Steve is continuing to farm up. I'm going to quickly take a look. 350 Silver Serpents, already upgraded fire at will. Nukeduck and Yankos are going to tag team up to try and take down Soaz. They're on the inner turret and they've got the support of Vanda as well. Gonna look for the dive. Nukeduck does not throw down that last breath. Instead, gonna allow Soaz to retreat. This should be enough for the tower, and it will be.
And finally, the Rocket do what they couldn't do in game 1, which is after an initial tower lead, rotate to take a tier 2 tower early enough the game for it to have a mark. They finally find an opening. They have the potential to hold top tower. Something we haven't talked about too much is the fact that Rocket are very heavily spec'd into 80 damage. Yasuo and Gangplank are both attack damage based carries. Yes, Gangplank's barrels penetrate 60% of the armor. Corki has pretty much half the damage on Magic Pen, but it does allow Shen to itemize very efficiently into armor and health. That could be a problem later on for Rocket. So you obviously have to worry about mixed damage sources coming out of Origin.
We do have to worry about that. Nukeduck will also be something to worry about. Last breath comes out. Phase dive defensively. Chrono break backwards. Amazing's going to phase dive onto Mr. Rolls. He is still alive, but not for long enough. And with the jungler down and 10 seconds to Dragon, Rocket will be ecstatic about that pick.
Rocket don't even have to rush this Dragon. They can just simply push out lanes immediately and then set up vision control. This Dragon will go uncontested. Niels is trying to cross-map on the top lane, but the tower there has already fallen, so not much to gain, just farming, waiting for an opening. Peke had to go for a defensive build. Zone is Hourglass finished, so he's worried, so that again limits the damage potential from Origin. It's not looking the greatest when you have a double carry composition and one of your carries is forced to itemize defensively. You will run low on damage in teamfights.
This is a problem for Origin because it's 2 games in a row where we've had pretty big question marks about their pick and ban strategy. Against Fnatic, felt like it was pretty good, and you can argue that quite well, but for Rocket, greedy comp from Origin in game 1 was not punished. Limited damage in game 2 currently is being punished. And now Rocket just need to take that next step and push it further.
Game 1, you can argue that it was a thematic decision to go for a greedy composition, saying, well, we don't trust Rocket to have the shot calling to close out the game. It would be a bold move, understandable. This draft, however, I feel Rocket got the better rotations. They open up with Gangplank. Reply from Origin really didn't give all that much, and then they immediately build the bricks for a beautiful composition with the Gragas Braum on the next rotation. Those 3 picks in unison, as we said before, they build into anything. Just give you complete freedom in picks and bans. It is almost flex level worthy of picking. Therefore, you have to commend Yamato Cannon. He did make this patch his crepple, I believe. That's what he said.
And he did say indeed, and thus far at least, I quite like the pick and bans. We did see Trinity Force there picked up for Nukeduck's Yasuo. Blade of the Ruin King almost completed for Mr. Rolls with all the vision around Baron and a Triforce BF sword on Steve's GP.
So
Origin have to respect the vision in this pit.
They do, that's why they need to start sweeping. They do the right thing, put the pink ward outside, but then you need to sweep the pit. This is a crucial mistake, and again, acting from Rocket, They say, well, we don't really need to go in there. They're waiting. They're not committing just yet because 7k, 6k. Now Steve is probably looking, when do I cast my ultimate? Yes, it's coming. Now Rocket collapse, and this could be a big punish.
Origin are on the retreat. The Glacial Fissure comes down from Vander. There's multiple knockups. Amazing's trying to zone away Mr. Rolls as Steve is throwing out the parlay for days. The barrel is down, and that's going to pop. Mythy's the first one down through the Unbreakable. Soaz and Niels are going to get chunked out as well. Soaz is in trouble. Flash for Flash, I believe that was. Rocket get 2.
Uncharacteristic mistake from Origin in terms of vision. The pink ward outside but not sweeping the inside of the pit correctly leaves them going home with 2 people down in a failed Baron attempt. Again, patience from Rocket. They didn't even give away the fact that they knew the Baron was going on. Look at the positions they were in earlier. This is actually a little later in the fight. Calculator slows them down. Glacial Fissure comes in the peel. Spec has laser. Yeah, hits a couple people. Then Nuketock cancels the majority of it with his wind wall. Ultimate from Expected doesn't really connect. And Rocket can just migrate top. They just ignore the victor in the bottom part of the game. Vander drops super low but doesn't end up dying. Yeah, a couple flashes blown here. Rocket overall in control of this game.
Maintaining it as well. Got themselves an inner turret in the bottom lane. Do some cheeky split pushing from Nuketock. We'll see whether or not they can keep it up. In terms of itemization, I was touching on all the damage that Rocket's put out, but almost all of that had a physical component, and the Thorn Mail from Soaz is going to be, again, incredibly valuable against all of those auto attacks and physical damage that Rocket are putting out.
Yeah, if Soaz avoids getting hit by barrels, he's going to last absolute ages in these late game team fights because that build, not only is it good already, it just keeps getting better. The more armor you get, Thornmail gets calculated before armor gets put into the equation. Therefore, the more armor you get, the more hits you take, the more damage you return with that Thornmail over time. An incredibly efficient late game item if you can stack pure armor.
Don't have the lifesteal to survive, like Steve and Nuketock currently do not.
You literally kill yourself hitting a wall. It's not a smart idea. But then the solution is you ignore the wall.
Yeah, I was going to say, just don't hit him.
Don't hit walls. It sounds very simple.
There's not a lot of threat from Soaz with this tanky build. Yes, he can survive a long time, but with all of the damage Rocket have to play with, they may be able to ignore him, assuming he doesn't land those taunts.
Shen talks a bigger ship than he sails. 2 carries on Origin, Expeke and Niels. They all have to carry these fights. So suddenly, only 2 items on Niels so far. Eye Edge and then the Phantom Dance of Light, Static Shiv. And Expeke, he's delayed in his build because he went for Zhonya's Hourglass.
Luckily, it will help against Nuketock's last breath at least. Assuming he can get it off in time. Barrels chained together once again from Steve at almost max range. Rocket are trying to siege. We do see Nuketock pushing down bottom, and we do see deep vision up top. So Rocket playing aggressively at 25 minutes, using the advantage they've accrued.
So what we talked about earlier, that siege, yes, it can work. It'll take a while for Steve to chain these barrels because he has to get through Spell Shield 2. Rockets will eventually wear them down, but that buys Origin enough time. Again, Rocket said, we're not going to do this, we're going to go for the 1-3-1. Send Steve top, Nuketock to the bottom. Obviously, he doesn't have teleport, so they're going to peel him off back towards mid lane, at least to help a potential Baron rush from Origin. That's all Rocket need to do. Don't give away the Baron. They just peek inside. Nope, nothing's going on. There's a pink ward, but we don't even have the time to clean it. So you can see if you have the time to put 3 members to run to a Baron, face check it, but then be too scared to clean the pink ward, there's issues.
I think is really obvious for Origin at this stage. Bigger question is how do they dig themselves out of this hole? Because Gangplank is going to continue to grow. Infinity Edge now completed as well. The core items are there. Nuketock currently sitting on 1,600 gold. Already has that Cloak of Agility. So, you know, he's 1,300 away from finishing his Infinity Edge as well. Big, big, big spikes coming in for Rocket, and they're not equaled by Origin. Still waiting for the death cap from Peke. Most likely a Bloodthirster from Niels. And luckily there's not a lot of armor, so this actually does play into Niels' favor. Yes, there's a lot of damage on Rocket, but if he can avoid Gragas and Brown, it's a difficult task.
It's a big if there.
That's a big if.
We went over this before.
The 3 carries. I'm trying to be positive here, Crepo.
Now, Origin's approach to this game right now is just going to sneak in wards left and right, anywhere we can. Just try and find out whether they're doing Baron. They're on purple side, so they can place wards over the pit every time, sneak one in. They might go for more scrying orbs or just get the upgraded scrying orbs so when people are out of the pit, you can drop that mini ward in there. Just buy time. That's all you need to do. And then, yeah, wait for a mistake. Origin have shown that they're a patient team at times, and they're patient until they pull the trigger and then they go all out.
Yeah.
And that could play in their favor. Rocket have shown weaknesses against this type of play. Very hesitant and then afraid to kind of push through in the end. So it could be it, but Dragon goes down, the crowd goes wild. 2 Dragons for Rocket right now. The game is slowly coming to a halt.
We'll find out if Origin can keep playing as safely as possible, because that Baron will be integral to breaking the wave clear that Origin have. They do have great wave clear with Time Winder, with the Death Ray, Boomerangs, the Ricochets. There's tools there. And yes, the Wind Wall and Unbreakable can deny it, but those 2 plus Baron, and that's it. Tickets. Towers will drop very easily for Rocket. They play aggressive enough. See from Leduc. Rocket playing well. This will be a hard set. That little kitten that you were talking about earlier, Leduc, is biting back in game 2 of this best of 5.
I think I've learned in my life as well. Never underestimate the size of the kitten. They have some nasty claws when you least expect it, and they sit on your lap and they're just all nice and calm, and then suddenly they prove to you why you're more of a dog person in the end. Analyses aside, Origin are 4K down, and they're kind of stuck in a hole. Last game, they were comfortably down 4,000 gold because they had a better scaling. They had these really good split pushers, they had the Gangplank, they had the Vayne. Now Origin don't have the Gangplank because Rocket picked it up. And Steve, he's been doing well in this champion so far.
2 games in a row, it's first picked. Yesterday, Steve looked good against Giants. Soaz has chosen.
He also has shoes.
Thank you. 3 different champions to face Gangplank at this point. And the Shen, it's not offered a lot, but it was not picked to counter the Gangplank. The problem is, it was picked for some split push, for some stand Uniteds. We've not seen a lot of that either. So the tools that Origin have, they can't use because they're down.
I think this all goes back to the early game, that unfortunate or just well-organized forced face check by Mithy cost them the pressure in the 2v2. Sivir, Alistar can challenge the push against the Braum Corki lane, but they were pushed in very early. You see a fight for Red Bull. Pulverize misses. Not used to that from Mithy.
Mithy is in trouble. Boomerang from Niels is going to go out and bounce back. Unbreakable comes up. Mithy's held onto his Unbreakable will, but he burned his flash.
And this is the story of this game pretty much. 3 pushing lanes for Rocket. Origin fighting to get control of their own jungle, rather than asserting dominance and getting deep vision into Rocket jungle like they did last game at times. So Rocket overall just pressuring the map, and look at these triple pink ward setup they have accrued. It doesn't matter that Origin has any wards deeper than this. They don't really care. Like, there's too much darkness right now for Origin to really safely step into. And yeah, anytime Rocket could be doing this Baron.
And there's those 2 scrying orbs that you wanted to see from a team that's behind.
I think it's a good adaptation. I think it's incredibly smart.
See if they can make it work. Both are on cooldown for the time being. And Steve is trying to push out this top lane. Trying to look for a powder keg combo. We'll clear out that wave. I want to quickly double check his upgrades on Cannon Barrage.
There we go. Teleport comes in.
And let's take a look. Soaz will
cancel.
Cancel.
But he has Stand United. Doesn't really matter all that much. But overall, I like the adaptation from Origin. Instead of having 1 scrying orb every 2 minutes, they have now 1 every 1 minute. That means if they ever get access here, they can clean all these pink wards, reset the Baron, and even sneak it. They're starting it right now. They have a lot of damage though. Rocket. This might be panic. This is Hail Mary. Gangplank ulti comes down. This will be a fight.
Baron below half. Origin have peeled away. Explosive cast will split everybody up, and Soaz looks for the taunt. That's the jungler down from Origin as Amazing is out. Full retreat from Niels. Defensive flash from Soaz, and the Glacial Fissure will be used to cut off the escape route. Steve finds 1 as Mr. Rawls gets the 3rd of the fight, and Rocket unlock Nasher.
Yeah, it looks like a dumb idea, honestly, from Origin, but I understand where it's coming from. You suddenly got vision control. Rocket may not even expect it to do it, and if you lose control one more time and Rocket actually baits perfectly, the exact same will happen. You will lose the Baron, you will lose your lives, you will lose the game. Origin know that they're in the process of getting outscaled. That's why they go for this panic Baron here. They have Shen teleport out of vision, but the reaction comes in. A lot of global check here too on this side of Rocket, and yeah, Windwall comes out completely, zones that fight later on. And once you're down 1 member on Amazing, 2 carries is just not enough to carry this fight.
Origin lose the fight, lose Baron. They were already out of control. And now it just gets all the more difficult. Zeke's Harbinger has been picked up by Vander after that team fight, and the value of the item was already great when comboed with an AD carry and had some crit, you can amp it up. Now you've got Nukeduck's Yasuo, I-Edge, Shift, Triforce. You've got Steve's Gangplank. Multiple targets to choose from, no matter where you're comboed.
Yeah, you're better off putting it on Steve though, because Zeke's Harbinger is only 100% efficient if Yasuo has 0 crit. His passively obviously doubles his crit. So
yeah, it's already 100%.
The only reason I know that is because I made the same exact mistake on stream. I was like, can I use this on Yasuo? It's like, this dude already has 100% crit, Trepo. Do you read passives, please?
One of those things you just forget as the sideline. Another tower's fallen. So Steve, with his Infinity Edge and his Triforce, could go up to 80-85% crit chance with that Harbinger.
Yeah, give it to Steve, give it to Corky. Probably don't give it to Yasuo. He's already sitting on a decent amount of crit. Right now it's still, nope, he's actually completely useless if you give it to him. So
2 towers down already within a minute of securing the Baron.
It goes easy. This gold lead and the added minions wave clear is nice, but it's so hard to wave clear on multiple lanes at once against the Baron buff. It is nigh impossible, and this shows how easily those towers are falling. Meanwhile, Rocket go for the casual 4th dragon. They have a win condition. If they throw right now, they still can get back into the game with a 5th dragon, so they're in full control. Looking to tie up the series.
Yeah, 1-1 in this best of 5. If Rocket can knock down the Nexus. Now they should be able to. They have themselves a 10,000 gold lead, grown from 4,000 to 10k in less than 4 minutes. A lot of money to spend. A dragon, 2 towers, now only inhibitor turrets to take out. But I think wise for Rocket, there's no rush. They've got the scaling, they've got the item lead, they've got the ability to play any way they want to get these next objectives.
For Rocket, this game, there is no rush, but I'd like to see them finish it off quick and clean to see how much their shot calling and just strategy has improved. Vander came out yesterday and said, well, I had to learn how to shot call together with Jankos, because previously it was Xaxis and Overpow that were the shot callers together. So that's why Rocket was struggling earlier in the split. That's why they had this identity of being afraid to go aggressive, not really doing anything, playing the right way. Eventually Yamato called it. They're showing a lot of improvement in the series. They're still playing a little bit slow at times. Sometimes it is well-warranted caution. Sometimes it's inability to push an advantage home. This time, they're doing it well, though.
That Earthrider Corky skin is ridiculous with that much crit. But watching Rocket play during the splits, as you mentioned, was in slow motion, 50% speed. Now they're running between 10 and 20% speed.
Oh,
yes,
gets
working out.
Wasn't a flash. He got barreled in there by Jankos. Had to flash out then in return. You were wondering where he came from. Yeah, that's the exhaust. Defensive summoner down on Peke. No flash. That means anybody can just simply body slam flash on top of him. Nukeduck can do the flash combo with Yasuo. Vander can even flash and press R and just end the teamfight immediately. Origin are probably looking to yield an inhibitor immediately.
Let's see what Origin do. How do they defend, if at all? Steve is up top. Teleport will be available shortly. As Nukeduck and his Yasuo peeling away from the bottom lane to rejoin his team. He's got a very big cast range on that last breath, so could join from out of vision of Origin if a tower dive was the option they wanted to go for. Steve is also being pulled away from top lane, so Rocket
disappointing.
A little undecided on how they want to push this lane out.
Yeah, pretty disappointing in Rocket's approach. The way to go about these things is simply move up Yasuo and Braum to the front. When the minion wave enters the base, put up the shields, deny the initial wave clear, and then just go ham on the turret. Instead, they say, well, we don't want to go ham. We'll wait for some cheese and pick up a 5th dragon. It'll work. Eventually, Rocket are primed to take this game. Eventually, Origin will crumble. I just want to gauge the speed at which they close out the game.
Especially when you contrast it to how efficiently Origin or Fnatic close games out when they are ahead, for contrast. But regardless, Rocket continue to deny resources. The jungle across the map belongs to Rocket. And you can see all of those items, again, continuing to grow. 3 Eye Edges, 3 Triforces, Blade of the Rune King, Bloodthirster. There's probably going to be another Bloodthirster here for Nukeduck.
Rocket saying we're team players, put our items in the same slot, you know. Eye Edge, Triforce, 3 times in a row. Beautiful mirror there.
Good training is what it is.
Good training.
Yep.
I like Vander's build as well. I think Face of the Mountain into Zeke's is a fantastic build overall, because I'm just a big Zeke's advocate. I think the item is incredibly strong. It's probably one of the few cases where it's not even as efficient, giving crit to Corki, giving crit to Gangplank, which is kind of conditional. He can't decide when he's going to blow up those barrels to an extent. But overall, still such a fantastic item. Yes, Trevor. Makes funny noises.
I can't unhear it.
So I'm sitting here analyzing the game, I'm staring at the screen, and I see Trevor grinning like a little kid. He's like, oh, we're fighting Corki.
There are just some things in this game that make me chuckle. And that crit earth noise is one of them. But for Origin, they fended off Baron. Fended may be a very strong word for what has happened. Steve is left to push down on the bottom lane. Aspect of the Dragon will be available in 1 minute 40 seconds. If you're going slow and steady, if you're playing it safe, that is the objective you'll go for, then you'll go for the tower dive.
Yep.
Add more damage to your damages that you already have.
Yeah, you're still scaling into the... As long as you have item slots, you can advocate that this is an okay style to play. Spectators obviously won't be finding it as entertaining. Now Rocket, they have to make sure they don't slip up here. Origin enforcing engage.
Let's find out. Explosive Cast comes out. The Fisher's going to try split Origin up, and Origin are very split up. Nukeduck's holding on to the last breath because he can't find a carry. Most of Origin are grouped up north of the red buff. Steve has already found himself one onto Mithy. Chrono Break comes down from Amazing. That will just delay the inevitable. Steve's got himself a second. We did see at least Peke finding one kill before Raal shuts him down. Then we're going to see Soaz and Niels being dropped shortly. It's Jankos that gets one. The kill credit for the final ace goes to Nukeduck. And it was Origin trying to force a fight that was simply not going to happen.
And again, just like Origin started that Baron, they started a fight that everybody at home was probably predicting, yeah, they're probably not going to win this, because they knew if we don't do it now, our chances will get even lower over time. Origin, they were aware that realistically speaking, they were likely to lose this fight, but they had to take it because Baron was almost up, Dragon was almost up. Both these objectives on the map, it will be impossible for them to split up and contest them both at once. Rocket, they take the fight, they win the fight, and they're looking to close out the game.
Rocket show they are the real deal and can play with the big boys. They take down Origin in Game 2 of this series. They will even it up at 1-1. And this might not be as clean cut as many of the viewers expected. I know internally we've had debates about what the results were going to be. So Rocket, again, 39 minutes. They had Baron, they had almost Aspect of the Dragon. Origin looked distraught after that defeat.
And against Fnatic, Origin, they were expected to lose. Whenever they picked up a game, it was not a surprise. Well, it was a surprise, at least the first game.
Unexpected.
It was unexpected, so they weren't ready. They were ready to lose the games, and they weren't really ready to win them. This series, everybody pitched them 3-0, easy sweep, Origin, much better team. They took games of Fnatic. They're going to stomp this.
Yeah.
Then, if you lose, and especially in this fashion, that hits home, that hits hard, and Origin have some emotional players, and we'll have to see how they bounce back from this defeat, both in pick and bans and just in playstyle.
I really feel pick and bans will be quite important. Both teams are going to keep trading first pick. They are blue side, 1, 3, and 5 Origin, which means Gangplank could be another possibility. If somebody bans it, what it frees up in terms of the bans, will that be powerful enough to help a victory come through? I mean, these are questions we're going to find out, but almost everybody that I'd spoken to who felt Rocket were going to put up a fight were saying, well, yeah, they'll probably still lose, 3-1, 3-2, but this game creates some questions. We'll see whether or not anybody will be changing their opinions as we progress through the series. Let's head over to the analyst desk, take a look at how Rocket tied the series up.
Thank you very much, Trevor. And let's we'll continue by talking about those picks and bans. A lot of different things coming in. That Yasuo finally opened up for Nukeduck, and he got his hands on it and he went for it.
Yeah, I think the key thing in this is if you're on Origin and you're just after first rotation, you go, okay, we'll give him the Gangplank. We'll just take the Shen, we'll take the Victor. This is what we want from this pick and ban phase. I think Origin would be very happy there. And then suddenly they get into the game, the Victor gets neutralized by this, very skillful Yasuo play. Peke didn't have a particularly horrible game or bad game at all. He just did nothing for like 35 minutes. He couldn't get anything in lane. All he was doing was farming. 0-0-0 for 35 minutes on a first rotation pick Victor.
I think what we just saw here, first of all, Nukeduck finally gets to show, as you said, his Yasuo, how strong he is on this pick. It was banned away in the first game. It's probably something Origin will look to do again now they're back on blue side. But The Shen pick itself, I like it in the early rotation. I would have loved to see it on support though.
Flex, huh?
Yeah.
Because once you lock it in top lane, and you then go for Sivir as well, you have a very utility-based composition where a lot of your damage comes from the Victor alone. But then the problem is there's a Braum in the game. There's a wind wall in the game as well that can block so much of your damage coming in. And also, we saw Pekka a few times not be in the right position to really be the big carry for the team. So the whole composition was kind of built around him when it came to the late game damage. And it was just too many tanks almost, because even though yes, they can stack armor, something we talked about was how Gangplank has armor penetration on his barrels. Yasuo on his ulti. Corgi can remove armor on his E as well. So like there are 3 carries right here that can basically ignore a lot of your armor. So it's not as effective as it normally would be, and Rocket will still have plenty of damage.
Yeah, it's also one of the first times that we see OG putting everything on that mid lane. Usually they have other things. They have Aura Gangplank, or they have a Tristana pick for Niels, who we know if it goes a little bit later, he can also play the carry role on. That wasn't the case. Once again, though, Rocket did good in the early game, mostly on par, so it was on us to kind of look at what are they going to do with their lead now. But it was actually OG that started up a Baron with a ward in the pit. Let's pull that replay up, which made Rocket react to it.
Rule number 1, if you want to start Baron, I don't care if it's at 20 minutes, at 60 minutes, or whatever's happening in the game, at least sweep the pit, because you don't know if someone has snuck in a ward. You can just roll the clip now, but it's too easy for Rocket now to start fight. And at this point, there are 3 Trinity Forces on this lineup. Yasuo just completed his second item, the Trinity Force. Corki is insanely strong at this point. Steve has a lot of damage as well. Gets a good barrel off at least onto Source, but it means also Niels has to stay so far back in the fight. And now you're also again fighting Braum and Yasuo with a double wall to basically stop so much of your DPS. When you're grouped in a Baron pit, you can never get out and deal any proper damage, and Pekka was on the wrong side as well, so he had to constantly like back out, because if you're on your own as a Victor, or a Sivir in this case, you always have to respect, okay, can I get caught out because I'm on my own, there's no peeling for me right now, and they couldn't get proper damage from it.
And the frustrating thing was Mithy's cooldown on his sweeper was maybe 15 seconds, so they just force it, and you know, forcing Barons is a problem that we've seen Origin have before. Saw it during the summer split, saw it in Challenger all the way back in spring split as well. Whenever they fall behind and their head kind of dips down, they just go, okay, we have to Baron. We have to try and come up with something here.
It was desperation, because they had 3 losing lanes in the early game, because we had Nukdog pushing in Pekka in the middle lane on the Yasuo. We had obviously the very early trade up top lane where Mithy face checks and they start falling behind that lane as well. And of course the Gangplank pushing in Shen. So now as a Shen, in this case here, there's nowhere you can go. Because if you ever leave your own lane, your tower goes down. Steve gets a free tower. It's very, very hard for Shen to make a play then. And at the same time, Origin had no real ways of stopping the split push late on.
Yeah.
The 1-3-1. Nobody could stop Nukdog. And also, you had the Shen fighting the TP against the Gangplank. So unless you gank that lane, it would be basically the only way to do it. But he has an orange and good vision control from the rest of the team. You couldn't really start any fights if you were Origin.
You couldn't start them, but they tried to start a Baron again. And we wanted to take a look at another Baron replay that came out from Origin. And another failed attempt from Origin. So they start the Baron. We can roll this clip out. I don't think it's any surprise here that Rocket are going to read this. The crazy thing is there's an ultimate from your Victor onto the Baron for extra damage. The Baron's at half health at this point. How are you ever going to fight this fight now with your ultimate down? We've spoke about the wind wall. Nukdog manages to just mitigate so much of the damage here along with Jankos as well in this fight. And I mean, Rocket just taking easy fights from Origin having really weird and just bad shot calling when it comes to their objectives.
Again, it's just Origin is saying we need to rush the Baron. We'd hope maybe Rocket is sleeping or one guy walks in on his own, we can maybe catch him out. But like the way they play this team fight as well, Engage comes in from Origin, Nukdog puts up the wind wall, Vander goes next to the wind wall with his own shield, and they just zone out the front line, being like, well, you can't do any damage now. Your Sivir is going to stand there, hit a wall, and nothing else, and they just take out the tanks, follow up and get the rest.
Yeah, we're pointing out a lot of mistakes from Origin. How much improvement have you seen from the side of Rocket? They get to close this game out. They make some right decisions, even though and a lot of times they are being reactive.
I was impressed by Rocket this game. I mean, they've been on the upswing, but, you know, we were expecting more out of Origin coming into this. Rocket have looked solid in Game 2, solid in the beginning of Game 1 until they slowed.
Still a little bit too slow, in my opinion. You had 3 Trinity Forces. You were winning every single lane. That can be pushed a lot harder. But this is Rocket just making sure they don't make any mistakes, even though, sadly, being too slow can be your mistake. But this one here, they got towards 5 dragons. They got the fights because Origin almost gave them to them. So you can't really fault them for being very, very slow in this one because it was under control.
Yeah, and advantages in a lot of lanes here for ROC. We also asked you guys at home where you think the advantage would lie. So let's check in with you guys on Twitter as @SaberWolf writes, the battle of the baguettes in the top lane will be an interesting one to watch. Steve holding his own will be crucial for ROC. Well, in situations like this, of course, Gangplank is very strong, but honestly, it reminds me of Steve on Echo, which is one of the most memorable of his performances in Split. He seems pretty adept on the champion.
I was a little bit concerned coming into this matchup here is, could Steve perform as well on Gangplank as Soaz could? We saw Huni fail to do that in the final. That was a big deal because it meant Origin didn't have to be afraid of the Gangplank. Now Steve had a good performance on it. He won his lane. He had some good barrel mechanics. Ultis were better than yesterday, so Steve has definitely showed up, and that's very key because it means Rocket can first pick the Gangplank. It means also that if it's not banned, Origin has to consider first picking themselves because they don't want to give it over to Steve in first rotation on red side.
Yeah, I felt like this game, Origin just disrespected the Gangplank pick from Steve. They saw it yesterday, weren't super impressed, and just went, yeah, you have it first, we'll pick what we
It's a
want.
best out of 5, though.
Right.
So I like the fact you say, Steve, show what you got, and then we can always adapt later. It's 1-1 now, so it's not the end of the world for Origin.
No, definitely not. Very interesting. You guys will, of course, keep tweeting @LOL Esports. And we've got another score to settle, by the way. This guy, is this a tie or a sock? You can tweet @LOL Esports with a sock win or tie win. Very interesting.
It's not a
question
tie,
statement.
that's for
What
sure.
is it? It's very interesting.
You know, Santa Claus
tie.
comes in during Christmas and he puts down all the gifts in this one, and now you win.
There's going to be coal in your stocking this Christmas, Martin Official. I can tell you that for sure.
A little side quest here, but the main quest is, of course, this series. It's locked up at 1-on-1. We need to take a break before Game 3. Don't touch that dial, though. We'll be right back.
Everything you need. Keep it simple, and it's exactly as any other game. Alright?
Yeah.
Steve, look at me. Smile.
Yeah.
Smile. Alright.
Stand United could get channeled. If Amazing wants to dive, they can. Soaz takes a turret shot. They've traded. The ninja kills the fat man, and the pirate kills the ninja.
Oh, no. I don't know.
I'm behind you guys.
Kill Panda.
I'm shielding.
I'm coming.
Go Ali.
Go Nash.
We did see at least Peke finding 1 kill before Rawls shuts him down. Then we're going to see Soaz and Niels being dropped. Rocket take down Origin.